All right. Hello, everybody. Hi. Welcome back to another Monday night. It's me, and the man himself is down here somewhere in the bottom of my screen.
Hello.
Well, he's in my screen, and there he is. That's the man himself.
I'm waving on the assumption you can't see the little thing at the bottom, because sometimes you can and sometimes you can't, and I never know when you can. So,
yeah.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome back, Mr. Foxx.
Hello. Thank you.
We did miss you last week.
Yes, you did.
It was really hard trying to keep a conversation going with myself and answer the questions and get all the answers wrong anyway. But it's good to see you back. Hope everything is sorted out for you. And, well, here we are again on a Monday night. There's quite a few people has been sort of queuing at the door until we got ready and started and all set up and ready to go. I'll just have a run through the guest list, just check everybody's tickets.
I have to say straight off the bat, somebody mentioned bread pudding, and I feel sick. I don't like bread pudding.
I can't stand bread pudding.
The general consensus in the chat was that bread pudding's really nice, and it's like, yep, it's not.
No.
I have flashbacks to being a kid and my friend's mum making me a load of bread pudding that I didn't really want to eat, and I'm like, I can't not eat it. Oh.
You get people that put raisins or something in it as well. No, it's not for me. The texture.
No, raisins are good. Raisins are good for you. They're made of niceness.
The texture's just all wrong in bread pudding. Sorry.
It's like when you eat squid, but you get the rough squishy bit, not the smooth squishy bit, and it's like, I can't eat that.
No. I'll go down the list and see if we can find out who mentioned it. As I check everybody's tickets as you come in through the door, please, and I'll punch a hole in them. Alex, hi Alex. Josh Models, Scott from Orkney, welcome from.
Good girl, Ted. Good girl.
Gross Models, good evening. Alex again. Just going down. Kimber, 1, 2, 3. Phil Davis, Mike Mountain. Great Phil Davis. Simon O'Callaghan. Hi guys, first time being off work on a Monday night. So what better way to spend it? Of course.
Exactly.
With us. Yeah, just ramble, join in the chat. Heaven knows what we're going to talk about or what we're going to do. We make it up as we go along, but most of it's down to you guys. The rules are we react or interact with yourself, your chance to ask questions, have a chat, bring up subjects, even if it's a stupid, unrelated model question, we will take them and try and answer them.
Yes. Do be aware that the chat can often move so fast that we do miss a lot. So when you post a question, just put question in big capital letters or post the whole thing in capital letters so we can see it, so we have a better chance of seeing it. And if we do miss your question, obviously apologies. The chat goes really, really fast and we do miss a lot.
Yeah, even though it's in bold, capitals,
caps,
nearly there. In uppercase letters.
There you go. Get there.
Yeah. Even though it's in uppercase letters, we may still even miss it. So try again if it's important to you, or send an email to ted@eModels.co.uk.
I will put that in the chat.
Yeah.
At eModels. For some reason, ted@eModels.co.uk is really hard to type. I don't know why.
Yeah.
eModels.co.uk. There you go.
There it is. Phil Davis. He was the one that mentioned bread pudding. It's even better with a cup of tea and a piece of bread pudding. No. A cup of tea, yes. Speaking of which, I have really just in so walked through the door from work. So if it's all to pot and all sort of mixed up and we don't know what we're doing, that's usual anyway, but it could be even more tonight because I've just walked through the door from work because it's been absolutely hammering it down here. And on the way home, the road was shut for some reason, whether it was washed out or a car or anything like that.
Your chicken had probably escaped again, Ted, and caused terror.
The chicken escaped, so I had to go the long way around, and it took a little bit longer to get home tonight.
Yes. For the benefit of the governor, Ted is wearing his jacket because it's minus 400 degrees in the lakes. I'm not wearing my jacket because it's like plus 45 degrees, not in the lakes. So, yeah,
that
still warm and sunny here. It's not actually raining.
That rain outside is so cold it could be snow in a minute.
Yes.
So I'm wearing my coat because I've come in and I'm just ready for my tea. So I have to dash off a little bit earlier, like I did last week. I'm going to dash off for my tea. So I'll get a text halfway through this. Your tea's ready.
The tea's ready, and bring the washing in.
Yeah, put the cat out and bring the washing in.
We've had a question already, Tedward.
I've had a question. I haven't got that far down yet. Right, let's have a quick look at the question.
Well, we've had a question and a fake question.
Right.
Beyond Hope says, question, as it's Simon's first time, Simon watching the stream, how does he explain to his wife that he wants to spend time with you guys rather than her? We'll let Simon answer that one in the chat.
Yeah.
The best way to approach this live stream is that a lot of people will just have me and Ted talking in the background, but all the intelligent conversation will happen in the chat. So if you, when people will answer your question in the chat as well as us, and probably better than us. So there you go. Now we have one from Ron Mac 95. It's a figure painting question, Ted. He says, what is the best way to make highlights on 1/35th scale figure faces?
1/35th.
I have a bit of an answer, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I just use I more or less dry brush it really. I just picking out the sort of the pointy bits, the nose and the cheekbones, a bit of over the eyebrows. But don't use white, that's too stark. Use it sort of your base tone, mix it up, just put a bit of white or just to put a lighter shade of paint just to mix it up, and then sort of dry brush it really. 1/35th scale, you're not going to get that much of a highlight. Yeah,
it's a challenge. I mean, if the other way is to properly paint it, and I'm only just learning how to do that. And the one thing I would say is, if you can get yourself like a range, you can get ranges of paints that offer painting flesh. And Ted's got one in the background there somewhere, which you can now turn around and grab.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Yeah, I remember these things. You can get ranges where it has various different flesh tones to light.
There we are. That's flesh paint. Flesh paint. This is the live color set.
Yep.
It's from eModels. Yeah, there's a few of them out there, but I found this one quite good to use, and it's got your highlights, your ranges, from your darks to your highlights here, and it actually gives you a bit of an instruction on how to put them on.
Ted, if you could do me a favor, just hold it up to the screen, but lock the screen to you.
Right, hang on a minute.
To explain something, but I need you to point at the colours on the box.
Right, there we go.
Okay, right. So, if I was painting a face, what I would probably do, and this isn't the right way or the wrong way, but I would start with the darkest colour on there, which is that brown one. Paint the whole face. Just paint it all brown. You'll be like, this looks really weird, but just trust me. Let that dry. Then I would go in with possibly the third one along, which is a kind of medium flesh tone. And I'd go over with that. But what you want to do is you want to use water-based paints because you can thin them quite nicely. You thin it down quite a lot and you go over the whole face, but just leave the eye sockets and maybe the inside of the mouth as the brown color. But if you do it really thin, you'll get like a translucent layer, and you can do 2 or 3 layers, so you can build it up on things like the cheekbones and the brows and the nose. So do 2 or 3 coats of that and focus it more and more on the highlights each time you do it, and it will get darker and darker. And then you can go in with a lighter color still as far as you want, whichever those lighter colors, and again use it really, really thin and start off with just the highlight areas for your third light color, but again very thin. Cover the highlight areas, let it dry, and then do the same areas again but smaller, and focus yourself in each time on the highlights. It takes a lot of practice, and I'm still learning. The other thing you can do if you want a quick and easy way is simply to use the dark color first, go over it with the medium color, and then apply a wash perhaps of maybe the darker color just to go back into some of the folds and creases, and then go over with your highlight. But when you get to the final highlight color, as long as it's thin, you could literally just paint the top of the eyebrows, the crest of the nose, and the top of the lip, and a bit of the chin there, and the cheekbone. You kind of get away with it. But just work with your paints really thin and build it up in layers. If in the miniature painting world, like guys that paint like Warhammer and tabletop figures, it's what's known as glazing.
Don't forget your wet palette. It's an ideal situation for using a wet palette to do the skin tones.
Yeah, if you can use a wet palette as well, because it does allow you to keep your paints wetter and moister for longer. Have you still got it locked on me? Are you, Ted?
No, I've got it on you. You're free.
Cool. I was doing lots of gestures towards my face when I was painting, when I was talking, and I realised people can't see it. Yeah. But the trick is,
these guys here, I don't know if you could see them up close. No, he's going at focus if I get him too close. These guys here were painted with this flesh paint set, and it works really well. But these were done with the wet palette, as Foxx says. Try and glaze it, make the colours translucent.
If you look up on the YouTube's glazing, it's a term that's often used by miniature painters, like, you know, I say Warhammer figures and tabletop figures. It's thinning the paint down so it's almost like a wash, but it's not too thin. And then you basically paint over the object, and it's really translucent, but you paint over it again and again and again, but you focus it in on the highlight area. So you start off with an area, say, you know, that big, you paint it with the glaze, and the next bit's that big, the next one's that big, and you just, the more layers you paint, the thicker and more opaque the paint gets. But because you're moving it into the highlight area, of course, you get like a fade effect where it's brightest in the highlight, where you've done the most layers, and on the outsides, it's thinner and more translucent. And that's why it's good to start with the dark color, because you can start with the dark and brighten it up, and then you'll have the shadows there already. It takes a lot of practice, but there's loads of YouTube videos on how to use that technique.
Yeah, there is. If you get the right paint sets, we're not trying to push these. Well, you know, just say where you can get them from. But once you get the right colours, it surprisingly, I was surprised myself how easy I found it in the end to do and get the right colours. And you watch and just put the colours on thin, and just be surprised yourself how well it works, and it comes out well.
The only other real good method of painting faces is to forego acrylic paints altogether, apart from maybe the base colour, and work with oil paints. Mm-hmm. Oil paints stay wet for a long time, so you can blend them and add the highlights, really fade all the highlights together. But that's kind of a whole extra skill level doing it with oil paints.
This guy here from the Minions, I'll keep showing it because I haven't put them together yet. He was done with oil paints, and once again, it's easy because you can blend them together. Blend them on your palette, and then blend them on the face. Like, put the dark colours. See the eye sockets, how they're darker.
He doesn't look happy, Ted. He doesn't look happy.
He is not happy at all. Yeah. But I must get him finished sometime, along with the other things. But yeah,
but have a look on the YouTubes for like how to paint tabletop figures, how to paint Warhammer, stuff like that. That's the kind of using the acrylic paints and glazes technique, and it's actually the easiest one to learn, and it's a good basis.
Yeah, right. That's that one. Hope that answered your question, Ron. If not, drop us an email and we'll send you some more information. Just below Ron Mack's question, before the chat's moved up, I spotted one from Jamie Bourne.
Yep, saw that one.
Hi, Ted. I'm thinking about buying the Tamiya 135th Centurion from eModels and inquiring about the uniform colour of the tank commander. And also, do eModels have any fire engine models? Well, the first question, we'll answer the first part of the question first. The tank commanders, if you have a look about the era of the tank commanders, they wore a really baggy sort of tank suit. And that came in various colours. It depends what regiment it's from. I think if it's from the tank regiment, it should be black. And from some of the other regiments, you'll find it be a mixture of olive drab or a beige.
Khaki.
Sort of khaki.
We used a lot of khaki, didn't we? For
the word, yeah.
Like in the British Army.
So yeah, so that's really it. There were one colour. They weren't camouflage or anything like that. But as I say, if it's the tank regiment, it would be black. Yeah, that's it.
Just to add to that bit, sorry, Ted, to interrupt you before you go on to the second part. To add to that, just to refer back to the podcast we did a couple of weeks ago, where somebody asked something similar. There's no harm at all in just going off whatever colour it suggests in the instructions, because they're usually Tamiya especially, fairly spot on. It'll be one of their colours. And then you can look online and say, well, if I haven't got Tamiya khaki drab or whatever it is, what's a similar colour? But the thing to bear in mind is with sort of World War II era military uniforms, as Ted and I have said before, in reality, there was a lot of natural variation between two different people wearing the same uniform, because it's the middle of the war and Britain was blockaded by U-boats and the shipping was difficult to get freight in. So you'll find that the colours varied ever so slightly anyway because of the supply of the relevant dyes and materials. So good rule of thumb is Tamiya kits are usually fairly spot on with their colour schemes, but have a look around online as well for historical reference. But don't worry too much. You can be as accurate as you want to be, but like Ted and I have said before, it's all fun. It doesn't actually matter if you're not 100% spot on.
Plus, even post-war or anything like that, the things get washed and they fade and they get dirty and they get grubby. So I think you'll find, once again, there'll be all sorts of different sort of...
My M1943 paratrooper jacket is not the same colour it was when I got it 10 years ago. Trust me.
And the second part of your question there, Jamie, do eModels have any fire engine models? If you have a look on the website, just search on the website fire engines.
I'm doing that now, actually.
Yeah, if they haven't got any in stock, I know that Italieri do a fire engine model. And it's a cracking model. I think it's a European one. It's not an English British one, but it is a cracking model. And if they haven't got it, if you'd send them an email or send them some details on a contact form, as we've seen before, if they haven't got it, they'll try their best to get it for you.
Yes, I've just had a look now. There's nothing actually in stock at the minute, but that could be because it's either something they don't stock or it's something that's just out of stock.
Yeah.
Like Ted says, drop them an email. If it's something they don't necessarily carry, they can probably get something from one of their distributors. So say, I know you haven't got one and you haven't got it in stock, but can you have a look online? What I will probably do is have a look online and look for a kit that you quite fancy, that you like the look of, and then give the guys a shout at eModels and say, hey, I quite want this kit, but you don't have it. Can you get it from one of your distributors? And they probably can do.
Yeah, we've seen them do that before. Remember that big French car that somebody
has? 1/9 scale 15 Citroen 15 CV that's going to be about this big.
Yeah.
Was that Bo Heinemann, or I can't remember who it was now. Was it Grey Hall? It wasn't Grey Hall. It might have been Bo Heinemann. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, he got it for his dad. The box was like this big. We saw it in store, and I was like, I want one of those. And James at eModels was like, yeah, we don't stock it. We just got it for a customer. I was like, wow.
So they do that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The chat has moved on quite a bit. I'm trying to go back and try and find out where I got to, but
I'll find the next one if you want. Hold on. It just moved. It just moved instantly, and I've just lost about an hour's worth of chat.
Yeah, I'll just check it here.
Fox, sounds might be a little too loud on your end. We're getting some slight reverb. Let me turn it down. Is that any better, chaps? Is my audio any better now? Or am I just talking too loud?
Yeah. Sounds all right to me, but then again, I'm deaf.
Yes. Right, where's the next question? Let's have a look. So what have you been up to anyway, Ted, while I'm searching through the chat?
Right, well, what have I been up to? Well, work, yeah. I have made a start on the U-boat, the next section for the U-boat. As you can see, there's some bits and pieces and sections up here. They're all a bit mixed up. But I have got the bits out. I have the sprues. An empty sprue. I don't know why that's still here. I have the
sprue goo. Make some sprue goo with it, Ted.
Make some sprue goo. I have the paint callouts, and I have the instructions, and I'm going to make a start. I've got one or two bits and pieces. Look, I've actually lost it. I've actually glued some bits together. Look, glued the bits together for the engine room, and there is a load of it. I think there's 100 parts in just the engine itself. I think I mentioned this last week. I think there's 100 odd parts just in the engine. So I'm going to have a go on my next days off and get one or two bits together, and then consider doing a quick live update about what's going on and where we're up to. So that's really what I've been up to. What about you yourself, Mr. Fox? Have you been doing anything exciting on your workbench this week?
I've been busy this last week, but I haven't been working on the Eagle. I've been working on this, which is my big 31-inch tall Master Chief. I've had to take a little time out from doing the Eagle because it's getting towards MOT and car insurance time, so I need something I can sell. So I've been working on this to get this built and sold off. Then I can get back on with the Eagle. But I've been working on this. It's just on a big, it's absolutely massive. I discovered, to my joy, here's your handy tip for you. It's polypropylene. And most of the people in the chat will know this because I posted it here and there, but it's polypropylene. And what I didn't know is that polypropylene is the same kind of plastic that car bumpers are made of. And it's hard, but flexible. And the problem with polypropylene is that most primers that we use in our model making hobby won't stick to it. Well, they might stick to it a bit, but as soon as you put masking tape down on the paint and pull it back, it'll pull the paint off. So I've learned a kind of painful lesson working on this that, yeah, I can't do any masking on this. It's mostly brush painted. It's taking forever. But yes, I've learned if I ever make another big figure like this or anything like polypropylene, you need to get yourself an etch primer or an adhesion enhancer first and then do your painting. Luckily, it's actually fine for handling. It's not coming off when I handle it. but I couldn't do any masking. So I got the base grey colour down and the base green colour. I had to actually freehand airbrush some straight edges, and that was kind of interesting. But I got all that down, and now it seems to be okay. It's just I can't do any masking on him. So for things like on the rifle here, I had to paint the green parts, and the stripe and the grey parts are all hand painted. I couldn't do any masking on that at all, which was kind of interesting and challenging. So that's been fun, but it's been gunk wash now, and that's got 5 days or more to dry. So I'm going to crack on again with the Eagle tomorrow. I've got the engine assembly at the back to do, and that's kind of giving me a little bit of flutters because it looks really complicated.
I must admit, the last couple of days though, the mojo has really been sort of lacking. So I've spoke about this as well. How do you restart your mojo? That's sort of flagged a bit. It's just been I've been working sort of long shifts at the moment because of people wanting parties and things on the boats. But I'm enjoying it. But yeah, it's just taking a little bit of motivation. But I'm getting there. You guys are a great help as well. Because I enjoy doing this on a Monday night. If I don't do anything else, I enjoy coming along and having a chat. So that's what, yeah, that's great fun. I see one or two people are mentioning sprue glue in the chat, which is a great idea.
Sprue glue, I've got mine somewhere. Where's mine?
Yeah, easy to make.
There's mine. You know it's sprue glue because it says sprue glue on it.
Sprue glue, yeah, sprue glue. Yeah. So it's not available for eModels, but you can make it yourself.
Yes.
By buying a kit from eModels and using the sprue and the glue from eModels. Yeah.
If anybody doesn't know what sprue glue is, it's quite literally Tamiya extra thin with a load of bits of sprue dumped in it, or plastic card. And you put a load in and you let it basically the glue dissolves the plastic, and what you're aiming to get is something, this won't be in focus, but something that's thick enough that it won't just drip off the brush. Because what you do is you use that as a filler. Because what you're basically doing is you're using the goo as the binding agent, and the polystyrene from the plastic is your filler. So if you're filling a gap on a model, you're filling it with not filler, but polystyrene, which means when it's dried, you can sand it perfectly. You can scribe lines into it, no problem, because you're just scribing into polystyrene. So it's a good way to make a little cheap filler for yourself, and it's actually really nice to work with.
Yeah. Good. Just catching up in the chat there. Scott says my audio is a bit quiet. I've just adjusted it. Hopefully you can hear me a bit better now. And I'm sort of relaxing and sort of sinking into my chair further and further away from the microphone here. It's been a long day. So hopefully, if I move a little bit closer, you can hear me.
Ted's not even had his tea. He's not even got his
I'm not even had my tea. My stomach's rumbling. It's only you can't hear it. Yeah. So.
You're out of thoughts, aren't you, Ted? I see somebody did mention about a wet palette. I missed the original comment. But we've got a question about wet palette later on.
We have got a question about a wet palette as well, so we might as well do that one now.
Shall I explain what a wet palette is? For you
tell us what a wet palette is.
Okay, I mean, most of you probably know what a wet palette is, but for those that don't, a wet palette, and I did this last night as well. This is going to stink now because I've had it open for about 3 days. Oh, that stinks. I'll explain that in a minute. A wet palette is quite simply a way to keep your water-based acrylic paints workable for longer. Everybody knows if you get like some acrylic paints and you put it on a piece of plastic or a bit of a palette or something like that, and you're working with them, they dry out really quick because they're water-based paints. They're designed to dry fast. What you can do is make a wet palette. It doesn't normally look as messy as that. And all you need to do is get some kind of container, probably not as tall as that. This is just a sandwich box. Get a load of kitchen roll or sponge, whichever you prefer. You soak it so it's damp, and you drain all the water out, but you want it to be damp. And over the top, you put a piece of parchment paper, baking parchment paper. Now, it's actually quite hard to find in like Asda and Tesco's and Sainsbury's, because often you'll get stuff that's a mixture of parchment and foil, which is no good. You can't just use any old paper. It's got to be baking parchment paper, because the baking parchment paper, it won't let all the water through it. The water won't just soak through it completely, but it will kind of let a little bit of water through. So it won't just get sodden and fall apart. It will stay reasonably solid. It's kind of half waterproof, half water permeable. And all you do is you say, get your tissue in there, fill it with water over the tissue, put your parchment in, give it 5 minutes, tip the water away. You've now got either sponge or tissue that's damp and wet. Your parchment is damp and wet. And then when you get your paint on from the pot, put it on here and start your mixing and use this as your palette. The beauty is it keeps the paints hydrated for longer. So quite important, like I was saying before about painting faces, keep your paint wet and moist and thin. I often find when I'm painting with a wet palette, I don't always need to add water to thin it, because the water that's just already on the wet palette in the parchment is actually hydrating it enough. So sometimes you can just get the paint on there and just move it around a bit, and then you can start to work with that paint. But it will keep the paint moister for longer. It'll keep it hydrated, so you don't use as much paint, because there's nothing worse than putting paint on your palette and half of it dries out and you've wasted it.
Yeah, it's a good way as well of if you mix a specific colour and mix it on your wet palette, that colour that you've mixed will stay usable for longer, because there's nothing worse than mixing something up, it drying, and then you think, I haven't finished that, or it needs another coat, and then you've got to try and reproduce that colour again. You'll never get that done.
Yes, the beauty of that wet palette is that when you come to the end of the day and you finish painting, let's say I've mixed a specific colour and I've done some painting, but I need to go and have my dinner and go to bed. I've still got stuff to paint, but I can't mix that exact colour again. So all I do is put the lid on the paint palette, put it in the fridge. Now, it's important to do that, because the reason I opened this and went like that earlier on is this has just been sat in this room for like 3 days, and it smells like feet. It's not right. So when you're finished, use a sandwich box, stick your lid back on, put it in the fridge, and the paint will probably stay workable for a couple of days. When you take it out of the fridge, you might find the paint colour is separated, so it might look all like a grey can suddenly go into all kind of black swirls. Not a problem. Just mush it up with the brush and the colours will all mix again, because they do separate out. But yes, so that's a wet palette. It will literally cost you £pounds. It's the cost of a sandwich box, a bit of kitchen roll, and a pack of parchment paper.
Yeah, mine consists of a takeaway box. I'm sure we've got loads of those all around the house. Yeah.
Some people use sponge. Some people use. I will admit, though, I had great trouble finding parchment paper in an actual shop. I had to go to the big shop that's named after a river, South American river, online to get some. But it's baking parchment paper.
A tip, if you have any of your significant others who do any baking, I find my parchment paper as a baking tin liner. There was an odd crinkly shape all round made for baking cakes and things, but that was actually parchment shaped. So you just
the one thing to be aware of is that you can't use greaseproof paper.
No,
because greaseproof paper is greaseproof. It's hydrophobic. It rejects water. You want the parchment paper because it's semi-permeable, so some of the moisture will get through, but not all of it. Greaseproof paper will just stay dry, so there's no use to you whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Another question.
Yes.
We'll go to questions. We've got a question about wet palettes from Chris Williams. It says that guru bloke, him, he's saying that wet palettes are great, but not for Tamiya paints. What happens if I use Tamiya paints on a wet palette, or is there an equivalent palette to use for them? I wouldn't say that you could use Tamiya paints on a wet palette, because they're sort of alcohol based and they'll just split, certainly. We did discuss this before, and we thought that you could, but it'd be rather expensive and rather fumey. You could make a temporary wet palette using some Tamiya thinners, maybe on a sponge, with your paper over the top of that.
Parchment paper.
Parchment paper, that's the word I'm thinking of.
Yeah, even I struggle to remember what it's called.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be a permanent wet palette, because the thinners would eventually rather quickly evaporate. Yeah, but you could try it, have a go at it. Yeah.
I mean, the difficulty is, like Ted says, they're alcohol based. It might work a little bit, because you can thin Tamiya paints with water, but if you thin Tamiya paints with water, they don't behave like water-based paints. They kind of, like Ted says, they kind of split. There's a whole surface tension battle going on between the alcohol and the water. And I find when I thin Tamiya paints with water, they go a bit grainy and bitty and particly, and they don't behave correctly. So you can get some uneven paint finishes. So it's not impossible, but I wouldn't recommend it. Wet palette, you really just want to use a water-based paints. Because that's what you're going to be thinning them with anyway, and it's just a way of making your paint last longer and having more control over it. And like we were saying before as well, if you're doing glazes, like you're getting very, very thin paints, That's also a brilliant way to use the wet palette to mix them, because you can have color A and color B, and you can just drag the two colors together in little bits and they'll still be workable for ages. So, but Tamiya paints, you could do it. I can't promise the results will be anywhere near good, because Tamiya paint gets a bit weird when you use water as a thinner.
Yeah. So, yeah.
On that note, though, I have to say something, and I said to Ted I would do this. I've always said yes, brush painting with Tamiya paints is an absolute nightmare, and it is. However, I did do some brush painting with Tamiya paints on this, actually. The base color for this green part was done with Tamiya paints, brushed on because I couldn't airbrush, and it actually came out all right, because what I did was I thinned them to the point of stupidity, just with normal Tamiya. No, I used the UMP Ultimate Airbrush thinners, but I thinned them to ridiculously thin amounts, and it took many coats to build up a color. But it actually came out all right, and not particularly brush marky. So I have to correct myself and say, yes, you can brush paint with Tamiya paints. You just have to thin them a heck of a lot.
Did you go over the Tamiya with a second coat? Did you put more than one coat on? And it didn't take the first coat off? Because I think that is a problem with Tamiya, that even though you leave your first coat for a day or two, sometimes when you put the second coat on, it reactivates the first and just takes it off. Yeah,
that's the other problem that I would have had. What I did with mine was primed it in black, and I wanted a colour to go under the... Okay, so this was painted with a Citadel colour, Deathwell Forest. But I wanted to do a base colour that wasn't black, so I wanted to get a block in a colour of some sort, just so the Deathwell Forest wasn't too dark. And I wanted something that would be reasonably tough against handling. So what I did was all the base colours on this, they painted with the Tamiya paints, because I know, because the primer's not really sticking to the plastic, the Tamiya paints are lacquers, they're quite tough. So I based it with a Tamiya green colour of some sort, and I can't remember which one. And I did about 2 coats, just really thin down, just to block in the base colour, because then the Citadel paint will go over the top. So I wasn't too fussed about the fact that the Tamiya paint was really patchy. If I'd just been using the Tamiya paint, though, like Ted says, the difficulty with Tamiya paints is if I paint a coat with a thinned paint colour and let it dry, when I then go over it again with the same thinned colour, that paint is mostly thinner, and the thinner could potentially reactivate the paint that's already on the model. So because you're having to brush paint them on really thin, you're running the risk of destroying the paint underneath and reactivating it. So to that extent, brush painting with Tamiya paints is still a bit of a pain in the backside, but it can be done.
Mm-hmm. Samuel O'Callaghan said he's used lacquer thinner in the Tamiya paint to brush paint, and it turns out great with that.
Yes, they are technically lacquer paints. They're alcohol based, but they're actually closer to lacquers like Mr. Colour than they're. They say acrylic on them, but they're much more like the Mr. Colour lacquers than they are your Vallejo or your Citadel or your MIG water-based paints. They're not. Technically, they're not acrylics because they're not water-based, but they are sort of, because they're not quite lacquers. They're not quite acrylics, but you can thin them with lacquer thinners, yes.
It's one of them paints that's a little bit like Marmite. You either love it or hate it. Personally, I can't get to grips with it, but that's just me. I'm probably doing it all wrong anyway. But other people swear by them and think they're great. Yeah, so go with what you're happy with. Mr. Law says Gunpla markers and his Mr. Aqueous colour have the same problem, being basically the same type of acrylic. So yeah, as we said, yeah, one reactivates the other one. Yeah, so
that's why, for example, in not when I'm making Gunpla, but with other kits, what I used to do a lot of time was I would paint something in, say, Tamiya paint. Like when I did Millennium Falcon once, I painted it in all the right colours, did that. And then I did a wash with Tamiya Smoke. I thinned it down really thin, so it's like a 10mm pot of thinner with about 2 brushes of Tamiya Smoke, and it makes a beautiful kind of gunk washing type colour, but without the actual gunk washing. You can't rub it off. You just, as Ted would say, slap it on all over the model.
Slap it on.
Yes. You basically just wash it all over the model and it collects in the recesses. It's a good way of doing panel lining and dirt. But what I learned very quickly was I had to gloss or matte varnish the model first, because as I'm slapping on the thin Tamiya Smoke,
slap it on.
Yeah, I can't emulate the master. Slap it on, I say. No, I can't do it. But what I learned was if you paint your model in Tamiya paints and then even though it's dried for a couple of days, put on a load of thin Tamiya smoke, which is mostly thinner, in some places that original paint's going to come up again because it gets reactivated by the thinner. So you do have to keep that in mind with Tamiya paints, is that if you're going to do anything like that, you want to make sure there's some protection between the paint and whatever's wash or some sort you've got on. And same with painting multiple layers of colours. There's a potential. It might not happen, but it's there.
Yeah,
you don't get that problem with water-based paints because once it's dry, you're going over it again, and it's fairly stable.
Solvent Abuse UK. That's a great name. That's a great name for a. Yeah.
What was that one?
Solvent Abuse UK. That's his name. That's his name. Yeah, it's great. He says, I love Tamiya. It's his favourite paint. Yeah, at one time, Tamiya and Humbrol were about the only paints you could get for modelling, and now you can get anything. But yeah, at one time you were just stuck with them two paints. So it was really slow, smelly, slow drying, smelly Humbrol paints, or quick drying, what we thought was a fantastic acrylic type paint from Tamiya. So that's what you were stuck with.
I mean, the thing I love about Tamiya paints is they're perfect. They're really designed for airbrushing and not brushing. And because they're alcohol based, they're kind of a little bit tougher than your Citadels and your Vallejos and your MIGs. They're a little bit more hard wearing. So if I'm airbrushing something, I'm probably going to stick to Tamiya paints because I've used them for years and I've got a box full of hundreds of them over there. So if I'm airbrushing stuff, then yes, I'm probably going to use Tamiya paints because I know how to use them. They give you beautiful colors and they're kind of tough. They're not quite lacquer paint tough, but they are tough. When I paint with, say, Ammo or Vallejo or Citadel colors, I can paint the whole thing, but I guarantee you after handling the model while building it and painting things, there's going to be bits where the paints come off because acrylic paints don't grip that well. They're easily removed. But Tamiya paints, you can paint the thing, you can airbrush it, and you can handle the heck out of it, and you probably won't chip it unless you bang it on the table. So for airbrushing, you can't beat them.
Yeah, while we're on about paints, one thing I have found that while I've been doing this submarine, I've actually started for the first time really is airbrushing with Mr. Hobby lacquer paints. I'm really impressed with them, using the Mr. Hobby thinners and airbrushing them on. Granted, I now have a mask and I don't have to hold my breath. Apart from the smell, they are fantastic paints. They go really smooth. Obviously, the thinners help that, but through the airbrush, what a finish! Fantastic finish. And I'm probably going to explore the world of lacquer quite a bit more and have a go at that. But yeah, they're great paints. So,
yeah, lacquer paints are renowned for their finish, especially even when brushed. Lincoln Wright, paint on plastic, he does predominantly brush painting. And he does some amazing work brush painting, and he it looks like he's just slapping the paint on, as it were. He's just like, really sloshing the paint onto the model like with the big fat brush, and he's like, yeah, we're going to paint this thing green, whatever. And you think, oh, it's just going to be terrible, but it dries like smooth and flat because it's a lacquer paint. So yes, you have to wear a mask because they are horribly toxic.
Yeah, right. I think we covered paints and things like that. But after you guys now, open it to you guys. Have a look. Have some more questions as we've moved on from paints. What time are we on?
Yes, if you guys in the chat have got any questions, throw them our way. Have we got any email questions, Tedward?
No, I think we've covered them tonight. We've gone through them, unless there's any new ones come in. Vincent de Kemp has said he's spent €20 for a paint book, starting point paint and book, Flesh and Skin. I'll try to get the picture up. Vincent, if you're in maybe tell us what it is. Yeah, he's got the Flesh and Skin colours from AK Interactive, which is another version of that one. And he's also got a Flesh and Skin sort of tutorial book from eModels. He said it's a fantastic starting point for about €20, whatever that is in UK pounds. So yeah, so he's so if I think eModels, it's AK, and they should be able to get it. Yeah, once again, if they haven't got it, ask them for it, and they'll get it to you. And I know they do stock a lot of stuff from. So yeah, so that comes recommended from you guys, not just us. That comes from Vincent himself. He's recommended the Flesh and Skin book and the paint.
Yes, he says in the comments actually, okay, Flesh and Skin color set plus the learning book that's geared for that set. Only came out recently.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it's often
if it's not in stock now, it will be soon.
Yeah, it's often good to have a book rather than on the internet looking it up on YouTube and things like that, because you can sort of read it. You will have flick the pages back and forwards and hold it on a page rather than sort of get it on your computer screen and it goes into standby and you're pressing buttons to try and get it all back. I love books. I've got loads of books.
The best book I've ever used for reference is the Ammo by Mig. In Combat Painting Mechas. It's down there somewhere. I'm not going to grab it, but maybe I will. That one, which is I think still in stock at eModels. It may not be, but they can get it. I've seen it on the shelves. It's an incredible book. Yes, it's about painting Gundams. I know, but it's useful for anything because it's like any of Ammo's weathering magazines and stuff like that. They've got really easy to follow guides. And when I did my big mega size RX 78-2, I basically followed the steps that Mig Jimenez did to paint his master grade RX 78-2. And every step is documented. And they're brilliant because you can really learn technique just by rote, by following what's in the book. And then you've got that technique in your sort of arsenal then. So yeah, magazines and books, definitely worth it.
And it's always quicker to go back to as well because I'll say myself, I forget how to do things. Rather than sort of troll the internet, like where did I find that link or how does it? Just open the book, it's there. Another thing that Vincent said about that book that he's just mentioned, it actually covers black skin, which you don't see a lot of references for. Black skin. How do you do it? I don't know how to do it. I'll put it in the book now. I'll have to have a look. Yeah. You don't see a lot of references to painting black skin.
Yes. There is a question here, which is I'm going to throw. It's actually directed at you because I wouldn't have a clue because it involves lighting. Beyond Hope says, Ted, opportunity to stump Foxx. I'm building a spaceship, but I'm adding LEDs. The best is moving. Hang on. The best, cheapest option to get flashing navigation lights without affecting the main lights.
Yeah, I would wire them separately, get a flash unit and just wire those navigation lights separately to the lights themselves. I don't think you'd need a separate battery supply. Sometimes having the same supply, supplying a still light and a flashing light can affect still lights very minutely, but I don't think you need to bother doing that, especially with LEDs. But wire the navigation lights separately. Flashing LED, navigation lights. Yeah, I think Star Trek had them, didn't it?
I mean, I don't know that much about lighting, but I do know you can go into depth and do things like Arduino boards and things like that to control various aspects of your lighting. In the olden days, I think it was all down to resistors and capacitors and but
there are some lights out there that actually don't need a separate circuit board. They will just flash themselves. But just wire them in separately. That's all you need to do with that.
Vincent's actually posted an answer as well, saying, "Look up flash LED circuits on Instructables." There you go.
Yeah.
555. I've heard about 555 chips. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, 555 chips. Yeah, they're a programmable chip. It's sort of basics and everything. The 555 chip. That's it.
Alex Catal puts an answer to, I think, a question earlier on about paints. He says, Ron, all paints are made to paint, but to paint with Humbrol is a pain in the ass. You will save time and headache brushing with Vallejo. Yeah, Vallejo paints are really nice to brush with. Yeah,
but then again, people out there like Humbrol. I have a friend on Facebook. He swears by Humbrol. That's all he has, and he produces some fantastic.
Ron Max says actually he used the Vallejo white once and it went everywhere. Humbrol every time. So different people like different things. It's what you're used to. I'm used to using Tamiya because I've used Tamiya for 30 years. But I've always had trouble brushing with them. So I tend to use other things. But I've kind of, in the last 3 or 4 years, got into the water-based, the Ammo by Mig, the Vallejo, and the other brand I shouldn't really be mentioning. But yes, and I've just kind of got back into brush painting now because I've discovered these paints that actually make brush painting fun. Because over the years, brushing with Tamiya paints, I've just been like, oh, I'm fighting it all the way. But with like the Vallejos and stuff, it's like, this is brilliant. I'm loving it. So I'm actually putting the airbrush down now in favour of brushes more often than not, and I've actually managed to work my brush painting skills over the last few months.
I'm sticking with brushes. If you're going to brush paint, get the best brushes you can afford, because you won't get good results with cheap pound shop paint brushes.
You don't have to go super expensive. Just try and get some good ones, some at least good ones. Somebody asked a question, and I apologise who it was because the chat's just basically buggered off on me. Somebody asked which was the favourite model in our display cabinets.
I haven't got a display cabinet.
Or in your collection, then, let's say for you, Ted.
I've got a shelf.
What's your favourite model in your collection?
My favourite model in my collection, I think, is upstairs in the bedroom. White's in the bedroom. I can't answer that one. Is the Hawk Typhoon Type 1B. It's not under there, is it? Yeah, the Hawk Typhoon. Yeah, that's the favourite in my collection. Yeah, they're all favourite. Isn't it right that the last model you made is your favourite model?
I think for me it's different though, because the last model, because the thing is, as soon as I finish a model and I've taken all the photographs and I've posted it up everywhere, I'm bored of it and I forget all about it. It's because I'm on to the next one.
Yeah,
that's it. Look at my cabinet. I mean, this isn't all of them, but I'd say probably, I don't know, I'd probably say my big Freedom Gundam at the back here, which I don't know if you can you see it, Ted, on your, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see, yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
The big one with the sticky out wings, just because he's big and massive. I do have a 1/60th scale version of that, which is about this tall, which I will make at some point, and then that'll be my favourite, because it's the wingspan will be here. I just need to get around to that. But that's not all of them. But yeah, that's probably my favourite looking. But then I do love my little Warhammer Land Speeder as well, which is kind of sweet. And there's a Y-wing there that I really quite like, a Fine Molds Y-wing. So they're all my favourite children.
Yeah, they're all. Yeah, it's your last model is the best.
Yeah.
Because, Ron Max come up with a question: what's the best brush? What's the best paint to brush other than Humbrol?
Yes.
Yes, all of them. Yeah, Vallejo's quite a good one to brush.
Hello, morning.
Morning.
While he's faffing, I've used quite a few different brands. I like the Armour Painter brushes; they're really nice. I do like the Citadel brushes. I know we don't stock them, but I do like their brushes, or they're a little expensive for what they are. You just have to look after them. But I do like the Army Painter brushes. I have a load of brushes by some manufacturer that I don't even think they exist in the UK. Who are they called? Micron by Dynasty. They're quite nice, but I don't think you can get them in the UK. I only got some because I wrote to them about actually getting some custom made brushes, and they sent me a whole mess of them for free, and then I never went ahead with it. So but yeah, Army Painter ones are really, really nice. And there's the other one. Who's the other one, Ted?
I quite like the MIG ones. They brush quite well.
Yes, they're quite nice.
You've got to treat them right, thin coats. You can't slap it on with them. You've got to treat them right in thin coats, even with a brush, thin coats. Otherwise, they'll just orange peel sort of type. Yeah.
But as long as it's not like a pound shop brush, and it's not the kind of, see, like if you go to like your hobby store and stuff, and you see the Humbrol paints and the Humbrol brushes, they're not very good. They're all right for basic stuff, but they're not the kind of thing where you're gonna. I haven't got one. Where's my Series 7? My favourite brush of all of them in the whole world.
Quite a few people are saying the Series 7 Winsor.
Yeah, my Winsor & Newton Series 7s, which were sent to me, and I'm blanking on who sent them to me, so I really do apologise sincerely. I get a lot of stuff sent to me. They've not been used yet because I'm saving them for my absolute perfection moment, because they're not the cheapest, but they are fantastic brushes. I have used them a little bit. I've tried them out.
Scott from Orkney is saying that if you're on a budget, Army Painter brushes are really good, and that we can confirm that they are good brushes.
There you go. There you go. I've got two of these. My Winsor & Newton Series 7.
Yeah.
Proper artists' brushes.
I've seen them in a proper gift set, a really sleek, posh box. They look like a box of cigars, and you open them up and they're all laid out in a velveteen type.
Oh yeah, you pay a fortune for them special ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am blanking on who sent me these. I can't remember if it maybe even been Chris or Paul. I really do apologize if you're watching this now and you sent me this and I can't remember, because I've had all different things sent to me. But I've tested them out and they are fantastic. I just haven't had the nerve to use them in anger yet on a model, because they're really special. So if you can afford them, Winsor & Newton Series 7. But if you can't, ammo brushes, the Army Painter brushes, and even just, go down to your local art shop and see what brushes they've got. The best brushes you can get tend to be Sable, whoever they're from.
Yeah, I think so. I think if I can find it, I've got some Army Painter ones in here, and they are Kalinsky Sable.
Yeah, Kalinsky Sable's kind of one of the best.
Yeah,
when I was looking at getting some branded brushes done, I got into a big conversation with this brush manufacturer about different types of brushes, and it got really in-depth and technical. But yes, Kalinsky Sable can be some of the most expensive and some of the best.
Yeah, but yeah, the Army Painter do Kalinsky Sable brushes. So
yep. So yeah, you can get them.
And if you do get good brushes, it's worth paying a little bit extra to look after them. I haven't got any myself, but I know there is a brush conditioner that you can get after you've finished painting.
Yes, it's not something, I don't think eModels currently have it in stock.
I think they have a MIG one.
Yeah, they might have the MIG one. I'm using the Masters brush cleaner, which you'll probably hear about a lot on forums and things like that. It comes from the US. It's not cheap. But I'll tell you what, smell it, go on, smell it, go on. It's got the most wonderful citrus lemon smell. It's beautiful. I love the smell of it.
Could you use it as hair gel?
Eh?
Could you use it as hair gel?
I don't know. My hair might develop a point. I don't know. But it's almost like it smells like lemon mousse. Oh, it's so nice. But all you do is you get your brush, you dip your brush in warm water and munge it about in there and get it all foamy and lathery and rinse it off. Or you leave it on to dry if you want a crisp point. But yeah, get yourself something to maintain your brush. If you get some nice brushes, if you go to the pound store and buy some crappy brushes, don't worry about it. But if you do, if buying some nice brushes is a bit of an investment, try and get yourself something to look after them. I can't remember off the top of my head what's in the eModels store similar, but I think they might have. Did you say it was the Amos? The MIG stuff?
You see the MIG are out here.
I've seen.
I think somebody just mentioned it. Hang on, Abtalung. Foxx Magic Gel from Abtalung.
Yes, Magic Gel from Abtalung is more or less the same. Yes, it's basically, it's stuff that's designed to, first of all, try and get paint off. So there's lots of strong paint stripper in there, and also it's designed to condition the fibers, because the two things you'll have with brushes are, well, the main problem you have with the brush, and there's no way to, I haven't got a brush small. I'll do it on a flat brush, but imagine this isn't a flat brush. The most common thing you'll see with the brush is that your bristles will splay out like that. They'll spread out. And you'll have no longer a fine point, but you'll have something like, let's have a look, see if I can find it.
Is that one? Can you see that one on there? So it's splayed out.
Yeah, it's just, instead of having a nice, say that was supposed to be like that, it would just be all splayed out.
That should be flat.
Yeah.
But it's gone sort of round.
Now, the reality is that a lot of people will get the brush and they'll have this brush that's like that and splayed out. And they'll think, oh, it's rubbish now. I'll just use it for gunk washing or I'll throw it away. In reality, though, the only reason that your brush does that is because right down in the ferrule, in this metal bit, where the glue is that holds the bristles in, you've got paint that's jammed in there and it's dried up and it's forced the bristles apart. So, apart from making sure your brushes are always stored, if they've got a plastic tube over the bristles, store them that way so that when you rinse them out, the paint can run down and doesn't collect in the ferrule. If they haven't got a plastic tube, you have to store them like that. Just make sure you shake them out as much as possible. But get yourself a brush soap or the gel from Abteilung, and it just helps try and get that paint out over time, and it'll help you restore the point on your brushes. So it's like your hair. You wouldn't just leave your hair full of paint. You'd wash it and shampoo it and condition it. That's all you're doing. Just treat it like, think of it like you're washing your hair. You're washing your brushes out with some nice conditioner and shampoo. It's very nice, darling. Very nice.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and then put some brush conditioner on, and you'll have hair that goes up like that. Right. Right. We've been going nearly an hour. Should we go and have a look at what's installed?
Yeah, you're going to have a look at what's installed. Don't forget to lock it onto you.
Right. I'll look it onto me. I will go and have a look at what's installed.
Refill my glass, one water glass for a second.
I'll
while you do that.
I'll try not to press the wrong button.
Don't press the wrong button. I want to come back with
the wrong button. Right. I'll do a screen share, and we'll go across and have a look at what's in store this week at eModels. Here's the eModels front page. Now, one thing that we haven't mentioned, if you do come to the eModels,
what haven't we mentioned?
One thing we haven't mentioned ever, I don't think, since we started these live streams, is that you can subscribe to the eModels newsletter. Down here somewhere, I think. It's on here somewhere. Can't find it. I can't. Can I find it?
I can't see because it's too small on my screen.
In there somewhere, it asks you if you want to subscribe to a newsletter. You just click subscribe, and every now and again they'll send you an email with some offers, what's in, what's new, and all sorts of great deals that are coming up in eModels.
Yeah, it's a good way to keep in tune with what's on offer and what's under special stuff. What's coming in stock.
But as always, they have the offers page. It's always worth just dipping in every now and again to see if anything's changed in the offers.
Yeah, it's changed regularly, updated regularly with stuff.
Yeah, and as soon as they can. And it's not just that they want to get rid of stuff. They think this isn't selling or they're selling off cheap. It's genuine offers. They'll put things down on offer to tempt you in. But we'll go and have a look at what we've found in store this week. And I think the first one we found, you may have already seen it. I spotted this one. It's the Italieri 1/9 scale Norton 750 Commando. That's a classic bike, that one. Now, you must excuse me. While I'm over here on the what's in store, I can't see the chat. So if you're asking,
I can see the chat. I'm going to leave this one to you, Ted, because I know nothing about motorbikes.
I don't know much about motorbikes myself. I think this is in the style. I believe this is in the style of a cafe racer. Yeah, I'm sure the guys out there will correct me if I'm wrong. And the Norton Commando is a well-known motorcycle from the Norton workshops themselves. Great motorbike, and still going strong. Built like a tank.
Yeah, 1/9 scale is significantly large. Is that normal for motorbike kits? I can't remember.
I don't know, but yeah, it's 1/9. Let's have a look at some of the pictures.
Gross Models points out rather helpfully that it's yellow.
Yeah, it's yellow. Yeah, that's about.
Beyond Hope says it's not finished. It's only got 2 wheels on it.
Yeah,
Scott from Orkney says yes, it's a cafe racer. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's the style of the cafe racer. But yeah, a nice motorbike, nice model. I'm sure that even in this scale, there's going to be lots of extras out there to really sort of bling it up and get all the pipes and the control surfaces and everything.
Yeah, Simon O'Callaghan says that Tamiya one's usually 1/12 scale, so it's quite big.
Yeah. So yeah, there's going to be a nice little shelf ornament, that one. Yeah, nice little racer. And as I say, a popular motorbike itself in real life and not just in the kit. Let's have a look at some of the parts, some of the sprues. Can't really see. Some nice detail in there. Can't really see how good the sprues are, but it's just pictures of what's in the box. Hopefully there's more than that. Some of the decals. 750 Commando racing. Yeah, any guys that are into
old school English British license at the top there.
Yeah, that's it. Old school number plate. So any of you guys that are into the TT or anything like that, nostalgic sort of motorbikes, yeah, well worth getting and have a look at that one. And it's not a bad price either, $62.99.
Yeah, that's right. Let's be honest, it's a big ass kit.
It's a big kit. Yeah, it's going to make an impression. Yeah, it's going to look good on the bench. Yeah. Next, a bit of armor this week is the the 1/35 scale British APC from TACCOM. TACCOM seem to be really rolling them out. There's certainly a lot of kits coming in store at the moment from TACCOM. Unfortunately, we don't have any more pictures of this one. Tony's still posting his pictures of his TACCOM
Chieftain. Is he doing the Chieftain?
Yeah, he's doing the Chieftain tank. Yeah, so he's still posting.
I have to say, Ted, and this isn't a comment on the kit, it's a comment on the vehicle. You can tell it's British because it kind of looks really boring. Not the kit. I mean, that's the design of the vehicle that the army designed. Yeah. Could they not have made it a bit more interesting? Like with, I don't know. I know it's a military vehicle and looks aren't important, but it's like
you could do the same with this as you did with your striker. You could sort of really sort of paint it differently,
mod it up and make it interesting.
Yeah,
it's like they just got like, I don't know, some planks and slapped it together. I guess the engineer, the army design department having a Friday.
It looks like it's got a telescopic gun on that one. Yeah, it looks,
Gross Model says they forgot the gun.
Yeah.
Then again, it's called Bulldog, and Bulldogs aren't exactly the prettiest of dogs, so maybe that's the name.
Yeah, but I think that there is a version of this with a gun on the top, but I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember. No. Anyway, moving on. More armor. Well, not quite armor, but going back to what we did before, figure painting. 135th German tank crew set. I think this is the old Tamiya kit. It's been out for a few years, but still good. Yeah,
I don't know actually, because I don't really recognize it as one of the sort of figure kits that was around when I think this is more recent tooling. Judging by the fact that photograph seems to be some sort of show where they're exhibiting it. Yeah, there are a few Panzer kits out there from Tamiya, but I think this is a modern. Yeah, this is going to be from like a Shizuoka hobby show over the last few years. Probably only a few years old, I would guess, just from the photographs.
Yeah, we'll have a look in a moment. See if it does look like it's a bit of a hobby show. Yeah, it looks like we've got a number of figures that could be stood at the side of the tank or stood in the open hatch of whatever model you are making.
And if there's one thing Tamiya do really well, it's figures.
Yeah. I do like them. So if you want to add these to your tank or your diorama,
I have to wonder though if they have their usual comedy Nazi in the instruction booklet. They always have like a little cartoon Nazi, little cartoon German soldier there.
I remember, yeah.
And it's like kind of not appropriate, but go on, we'll let it off. Yeah, I think that's a recent tooling. Looking at the Shizuoka hobby show photographs, it's within the last few years at least. So.
Next, does it have anything on the details about it? No, there's no further details on that one. Next one, Star Trek for you sci-fi guys.
What about the Reliant? She's on her way. I can start doing all kinds of Wrath of Khan quotes now. Wrath of Khan is my favorite Star Trek film. And the Reliant is my favorite Starfleet vessel of all of them. It's just kick-ass.
So was this when they decommissioned the Enterprise, and was this the next ship?
Oh, this was the bad guy ship in the Wrath of Khan. The intentional bad guy ship. The Reliant is a research vessel. This is the AMT-1537 kit. I think this is the same one that TK was building, and Adam's got it as well. It's a recent tooling. There was an old AMT kit about this big that I had many years ago. I don't think that's the same one. I think it's about this big, but it's a modern tooling, so it should be quite nice. But you can't beat the Reliant. It's if you've got the patience to drill out all the holes, it's a really nice kit for lighting. There are some lighting options. You can light it up with a bit of work. It takes a bit of work. And I always have to make the point that I think the Reliant should be in shades of blue, not shades of grey, but that's just me. But it's a gorgeous ship. You can't beat the Reliant. I have my little Reliant. You can't see it on screen, I know, but just in case you can see the little one in the corner, I'm holding up my little Micro Machines Reliant in here. It's brilliant. Lovely ship.
We'll have a look when we come back.
Yeah, build the Reliant. It's the best ship in the fleet.
That's it. Yep. So if you're in Star Trek, there you go.
Such a great. If you haven't watched The Wrath of Khan and you don't like Star Trek, go and watch Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. It's by far the best Star Trek movie. It's brilliant. Just brilliant.
And the next one, we move on. Space 1999.
Yes.
But this one's a little different to yours.
Yes, this is when they released the one I've got. The one I've got is the special edition, which comes with extra bits and bobs in the box, but it's essentially the same kit. There's three kits available. There's the regular Eagle, there's the special edition, which is the one I have, and now they've just released this one, which they said they would for a long time. It's the same kit that I've got. The only difference is it's got the cargo module, which Ted's showing you there, the cargo module instead of the passenger module. So mine's got the passenger module in the middle with the doors and the windows. This is the cargo variant. So the Eagle itself should be exactly the same. It's just the cargo module in the middle is the different bit.
I just like that bit there. I've never seen that before. Subject to license review.
Yes, that's an older picture. That was a test molding.
Right.
But it's obviously been released now. Because basically the way it works with model companies like this is they have a license to make the model. They come up with the prototype. They put it to the owner of the license and say, "Is that all right?" And they go, "Yeah, that's fine. You can make that." So that's an old test shop. So it's probably a bit more detailed than that now.
Yeah, so
it'd be a lot more detailed than that. But it's basically the Eagle I'm building, but with the different module in the middle. And I can tell you, I am loving this Eagle build. It's the 22-inch job. I'm loving it. If you want an Eagle and you want something a bit more unusual, then the cargo module is kind of cool.
So was it like Thunderbirds then, where they could drop one module off and pick another one up?
Yeah. The whole vehicle is completely modular. So the front crew compartment, the command module, that can come off, and it's a completely modular vehicle. And there's been you read on various places, various engineers and especially some guys from NASA, Ames, and JPL have said, if you forget about the propulsion method because it was like la-di-da futuristic fusion drive, which kind of makes it implausible, you couldn't run a vehicle like that with today's propulsion methods. But the design itself would be right at home right now in a modern space fleet, a modern NASA fleet, apart from the requirements of fuel, which would make it impractical. Just on the design side alone, people have said it's a really good design, especially for a 40-year-old sci-fi show. That's why I love the Eagle. It's the most practical sci-fi spaceship. And it's so awesome. But this one also, unlike my special edition, this doesn't have the big, massive extra sheet of decals. That's why it's not the same price as the special edition one, but it's exactly the same kit, the one I'm building. So if you want to get yourself an Eagle and build along with me, grab one of these if you don't fancy the normal regular passenger version. Although the passenger version with the normal pod in the middle is also available, the special edition.
So 22-inch, yep, brilliant.
Yep, 22-inch, just shy of 22 inches.
Fill your bench.
Yeah, oh, it will. Trust me on that. I mean, I haven't got the pod with me. It's away in the box at the minute, but the command module's like that big. So you can't see, I'm not actually on screen. So but yes, I love me an Eagle. And it's really good for lighting if you want to light it up.
Yeah, some good stuff.
Go and get it now. Go and get it now. It's an Eagle. How can you say no to an Eagle?
Good price.
Ron Mack says, I hope they bring out the Hawk. I have heard rumours that they are considering a Hawk. Troughton Chard says, next up, radioactive carrying Eagle, medical Eagle, Hawk, Eagle with boosters, Eagle with slight limp, Eagle with a hat. Yep, all of those are under consideration, apparently.
Right, I'm back. I'm in focus.
Troughton Chard also says they will never bring out a non-crashing Eagle. That's because none of them never crashed, if you know what I mean. They always crashed. That's what Eagle's designed to do, crash. Alan Carter was a rubbish pilot at the end of the day, let's be honest.
Was it one of them series like Star Trek where if there was the security team were beaming down to Earth and it was people you'd never seen before, you knew they were going to get killed.
Yeah, although,
or eaten by a monster.
There were characters that came in every now and then, and they would actually get dialogue and a big chunk of the episode, but you still know they were going to be the one that would die because you've never seen them before.
Nah.
But the reason it was better than Star Trek in a lot of ways was because massive flared trousers. Let's just leave it at that. It was a truly terrible series, but it was also a brilliant series. Season 2 was terrible. Don't watch it. Season 1, you kind of have to watch season 1.
Yeah.
Something. Have you taken the lock off? Have you taken the lock off?
I have. You are back, and I'm echoing somewhere. I think.
Oh, I don't know. I've not turned my volume up.
Don't know. Yeah.
Echo.
Stop coming off. We're echoing somewhere.
Is it still doing it now?
No, stopped.
Let me check my levels. Hang on a moment. There it is. No, my levels aren't exceptionally high.
I've come back from a screen share as well, and it's kept my logos on. I'll sort it out. Really? I think we can live with it. I don't know what's happened. We haven't done anything. We haven't touched anything on this side. Ron Max.
It could just be the Hangout being glitchy as well.
Yeah. Ron Max says Blake 7 was his favourite sci-fi series.
Oh, Blake 7 was terrible.
Oh no! I thought Blake 7 was all right at the start. Once again, it was all right in the first series, and then it got a bit, no good anymore.
Oh, I tried watching Blake 7. I couldn't. It was so bad. It was so bad. It wasn't as bad as Lex. I'm going to be honest. Lex.
No.
Lex.
Yeah. You must have noticed that I was conversing about sci-fi.
Yes, I'm quite impressed.
Yes, not a lot.
Sci-fi on your stuff there.
Blake 7 and Red Dwarf. That was about my limit, I think.
Well, you get kudos points for Red Dwarf because Red Dwarf is acceptable.
Yeah.
You can't beat Red Dwarf.
Right. Let's have a look at the chat. Lots of chat. Hopefully, if you did ask any questions, we haven't missed them. Or
yes, the chat's disappeared.
Yeah, the chat's gone charging up.
Yes, if you have any questions in chat, throw some questions into chat there. Smoo mentions UFO.
UFO. Oh, no, I've watched all of them. Yeah.
Now, apparently, Space 1999 was originally planned as a sort of sequel to UFO, originally, but it didn't end up going that way. But it was originally conceived as a follow-on from UFO. Thankfully, it wasn't.
There was a few brilliant episodes in UFO.
Yeah, purple hair and miniskirts. Yeah, it was the 1960s. What are you going to do?
Yes, well, yeah, I have to watch it just for the pure nostalgia. That's all. Nothing else, just the nostalgia. Yeah, let's move on anyway.
Yes. Right, everybody's talking about Red Dwarf now. You've set them off talking about Red Dwarf. You created that monster.
Classic Red Dwarf. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Favorite quotes from Red Dwarf are things like, "Quick, go to Red Alert." Are you sure, Mr. Rimmer? That does mean changing the bulb.
I can't quote from it. I wasn't there. Yeah. I'll just check, see if we've got any more questions coming in on the eModels. No. Right. Let's do a mug giveaway. Have you got?
Okay.
Should we do a mug giveaway? Are you ready for a mug giveaway, everybody?
Yeah. Are we doing the question that I mentioned earlier on that I have the prop for?
Yeah, because we have been going for an hour and my stomach is rumbling. And
he's not had his tea yet, folks. He literally got off the boat,
drove
like a loon through the lakes and got in the door and was like streaming.
Yeah.
So he's rumbling in the corner there.
I was taking my coat off with one hand and pressing the buttons, trying to stream with the other.
Yeah. Bless him.
Yeah,
I've still the sacrifices Ted makes for your entertainment.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I was dashing home, looking at my watch, on my phone, trying to text. No, I wasn't on my phone. I was driving home.
Chris says you can eat while you're on. We don't mind.
I did pick up a bag of crisps on the way home, and I thought I'll have them later on. Then I thought, no, I can't. I'll have to wait because can't eat a bag of crisps while you're live streaming.
No, everybody's actually ignoring you and talking about Red Dwarf. You just set them off. They're all typing out the theme tune. It's cold out here. There's no kind of atmosphere. We're all alone out in space. Da, da, da. Can't remember the words. Fun. Sun. Ba, da, da. It is a great theme tune.
Goldfish shells, nibble at toes. Yeah, we'll have to go out after this live stream's finished. You can go and Google the theme tune from Red Dwarf. It will receive hundreds of hits within the next question.
Actually, I'm kind of glad I did that because it's managed to remove DuckTales theme from my head, which has been in there for the last 6 days.
Yeah, there's a question from Ron Mack. I did notice it earlier, Ron Mack, but I forgot all about it. It was right at the start you asked this question. What do you think about the revelation on Star Trek Discovery that Spock had a half-sister?
Yes, it's interesting. There's a lot of people that are, I nearly said something then, that are going crazy, unhappy over the fact that the new Star Trek Discovery series seems to be breaking with canon, and suddenly Spock's got apparently she's an adopted sister. I think the story is rumored to be that the character's parents were killed by Klingons in the Vulcan training camp. So Sarek and his wife, Spock's father, adopted her as their daughter and put her into the Vulcan Academy. I don't really care. I'm just happy there's another Star Trek series. I'm not that particularly anal that I'm going to start getting nitpicky and saying, well, this can't be right because this didn't happen. And this, I don't mind. I don't mind that it looks like the J.J. Abrams graphics and visuals. I'm just happy there's a new Star Trek and I hope it doesn't suck. It may well suck, but I'm quite optimistic. I'm quite looking forward to it. It can either be really, really bad or it could actually be quite good. So we shall see. I don't really mind what they do with the story and what they invent that breaks with canon. I'm not really fussed. I'm not that picky about the timelines and storylines. I'm just quite happy there's a new Star Trek. And we'll see what happens. I don't like the uniforms, the outfits. I actually think that the outfits from the spoof series Orville look more like decent uniforms than the ones in Discovery. Although the ones in Orville look kind of Galaxy Quest. Everybody's doing like Galaxy Quest looking things now, and it's because since Galaxy Quest came out all those years ago, Discovery now just looks like kind of Galaxy Quest. I'm like, oh, I don't know. We'll find out. I'm sure it'll be good. Vincent says, Foxx, as long as Scott Bakula isn't in it. I didn't mind. I quite like Scott Bakula. I grew up on Quantum Leap, so I adore Scott Bakula. I didn't mind Enterprise that much. I didn't mind the characters. I just thought the stories are terrible. And the theme song.
No, you've lost me. After William Shatner, I'm afraid you've lost me.
Yeah, the only thing I will say about Discovery is I do not like the ship. I do not like the ship. No. Do not want. No, thank you, .jpeg. The whole thing with the saucer section with the gap in the middle and another, it's like that's so tactically pointless. It's just don't like the ship. But apparently, here's a rumor for you that some of you might not know. The original concept for the series that was put to CBS, was that it would be an anthology series. And the original plan was that, say, for example, series 1 will be pre the original series, so 10 years before Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, which it is. And then series 2 will be perhaps Next Generation era. And then series 3 will be post Next Generation, post Voyager and DS9, so further into the future. So you'd have like a series in Next Generation, maybe a series set in the Dominion War era, and then a series set afterwards. And I'm thinking, as a long-term plan, that would have been fantastic. But I can't help thinking that there's so many people out there getting really picky about the details that they'll do one series and it'll just die on the vine. However, there is reported to be another separate Star Trek series in development by the bloke whose name I've forgotten, who was directing, who got kicked out of Discovery. I can't remember his name, Michael something. Apparently he's also working on a completely different second Star Trek series. There's a lot of interesting information about licensing as to why CBS can't use a lot of stuff that we would associate with Star Trek because of the licensing from Paramount, apparently. So they can't. It's all really complicated, but I'm looking forward to it.
You'd have thought they'd have all got their act together. Let's. I tell you what, guys. Let's all get round the table, come up with a great story, and make millions. You know, if CBS and everybody else got together, yeah, you could have some of our licensing. Yeah, you can put that in because we'll work with you and we'll put it in and we'll make a conglomerate and we'll work together and we'll make millions because nobody can pick fault with it. But,
well, it gets really complicated because apparently CBS own the franchise. They own the if I remember right, CBS own the Star Trek franchise, but Paramount own the rights to the existing Star Trek materials, everything before J.J. Abrams. Because it used to be Paramount that owned the license, and then it all got bought and taken over by Viacom, and then that became CBS. So there's all different. So CBS can't do certain things with the Star Trek franchise because Paramount has the rights to those certain things. So it's real nightmare. So that's why it kind of looks more like the J.J. Abrams Star Trek than it does, say, Next Gen or DS9 and Voyager and that kind of Star Trek thing. So it's really weird. I looked into it and it's like, oh, it's really complicated. I just hope it doesn't suck, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think these new things, you have got to look at them. It could be anything. It could be a retake on a war film or anything like that. People have got to look at them with an open mind and not pick fault with it and saying, oh, that's wrong, or it just doesn't work then. You can't watch it. You can't, if you're going to watch anything and pick fault with it, you might as well not watch it. If you're just going to watch it for the faults, why bother?
I mean, I've always said that I don't like Voyager, but I'm working my way through all 5, 6, 7 seasons of Voyager now, and I'm enjoying it, even though it's not my favourite series. It's Star Trek, and you can't go wrong with Star Trek. So there you go. So are we doing a giveaway?
Should we do a giveaway? We'll do a giveaway of a mug tonight. The eModels
prop ready.
The eModels mug.
Yes.
And so what was the mug question? Says Dave, where's the run gone back?
I have a prop. Do you want me to do it?
Yes, you got the question tonight.
Yes, I've got the question. It took a lot of planning. Okay, it's a simple fastest finger first. I'll ask you the question. You put the answer in the chat. Do bear in mind, as always, this is for the mug. If you already have a mug, you're more than welcome to enter again and you can have another mug. But if you don't particularly want a mug, don't answer and let somebody else have a fair crack at the whip. But if you want to win a second mug, you're more than welcome to, or a third mug. Nothing stopping you at all. We will go off the first answer we see in our chat. Bear in mind, as always, our chat doesn't look like your chat. Your chat's subject to lag and everything else, and our chat has an even bigger lag, and we see the way it comes in real time. So our chat doesn't look like your chat is tailored towards you.
Yeah, your chat is biased to yourself. So when you put a comment up, it comes up with yours first.
Yes, our chat is the global chat, so it's the first one we see. So anyway, let's just stop waffling. So on my desk, I have a packet of crisps, a very big packet of crisps. What flavor are the crisps?
Go.
Scott Sutherland got the answer wrong, but he put cheese and onion, but he actually put it before I'd even asked the question, which is quite impressive.
Dum, 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 dum.
Nobody's got it yet. Nobody's got it yet. Everybody's misspelling cheese and onion, by the way. Hint, it's not cheese and onion. No. Yeah, there we go. Phil Davis.
Yeah, Phil Davis.
Whoa, chat. Yeah. Hello. I can't catch up with the chat. It's disappearing.
I know somebody said plain before, but plain isn't the answer. But yeah, Phil Davis said plain before.
Phil Davis says ready salted.
Ready salted.
Big bag. Oh, ready salted. I don't actually like ready salted. These are for my mum. I think ready salted are boring.
Yeah.
I'd rather have cheese and onion, but there you go. So Phil Davis, well done. Won yourself a mug.
There you go.
Press the button, Ted, did you?
I pressed the button. Stop screen sharing. Phil Davis.
Oh, Phil Davis. Yes, Phil Davis. Send an email to Ted. Put an email address in there. models.co.uk. I always spell eModels wrong when I type it. Not that I can't type and I can't spell. I just can't type and spell at the same time. It was quite funny because everybody was answering.
No, I don't have any. I was going to get a packet, but I didn't get any. Yeah, because they make too much noise. You can't live stream and eat crisps at the same time.
Yeah. It was either these or a packet of hot and super hot Doritos, and I thought nobody will ever get that. So we'll go for the ready salted.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've run out of gin.
Oh, you should never run out of gin. That's a tactical error, Edward.
Right. Thank you very much for that.
Beyond Hope says Applewood smoked cheddar flavour mini cheddars. They're the most amazing flavour, and now I really want to try those.
Somebody was mentioning them noodles as well before. I'd see that a couple of guys were doing a noodle stream the other day.
Yes, Chris and Paul did their hot noodle streams, and apparently they didn't get the right ones because they weren't very hot. However, they do have the right ones on order, and I'm being lumped into a bit of a live stream with them.
So we're away at noodle stream 2.
Yeah, well, it'll be Chris, Paul. I think Dave. Where's the rum gone, Barker? I can't pronounce that. Where's the rum gone? And me. And apparently he's also sending me the news, but he's got the packets, not the pots. I'm like, oh, no, because they're twice as big.
Noodles, the return.
Yes.
Anyway, 10:22 hours this evening, and my wife has messaged me, says my tea's just about to go in the dog.
Have you got to take the laundry in as well?
I've got to take the washing in that's been on the line, even though it's been raining.
Have you put the chicken out?
Put the chicken away, put the cat out, and go and have my tea.
Yeah, so, we have tea, Ted.
Yeah, I need feeding. So,
what are you having?
I don't know yet. It's probably burnt by now.
Cold burnt stuff.
Yeah, the wife's improving. The smoke alarm doesn't go off as often now. Right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening. It's been great. We've hopefully answered some questions. If we haven't, we've just waffled. But it's good.
Yeah, we like doing waffling. Waffling is our fault.
It's good that you stuck with us so long. Yeah, I am a bit out of focus as well.
You're always.
I'm always out of focus. I've found out it's not the camera that's out of focus. It's just me that goes fuzzy. Yeah,
it's that thick northern air.
Yeah,
that thick Lakeland air.
Yeah, thick Lakeland air.
Refractive index is different the further north you go.
Yeah, we couldn't see the top of the lake this morning because it was just mist and rain. Right, okay, folks. Time to go and find the button to press to turn it all off, and we'll see you again next week. Don't forget, anything you've seen tonight, go along and have a look at the eModels. Go and have a look at the eModels website. Sign up, subscribe to the newsletter so you get a message in your inbox when there's new stuff in store. And Pete sends everything out and says, wow, look at this. But thank you for joining us. Good night, everybody. See you next week. Wave to the people, Fox. Say good night.
Adios, amoebas.
Bye now. Bye all. Bye.